Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to see all of you on our third lecture of 6. And let us begin our Dharma talk today by reciting the mantra of the universe in its purity, Om Nam, 7 times. Om Nam, Om Nam, Om Nam, Om Nam, Om Nam, Om Nam, Om Nam. Thank you very much. Today we are having a very, very interesting topic. As you may remember from the titles, today we deal with what are we. Many artists, priests, and school kids ask these questions. And as you remember, in the first of our 6 lectures, we talked about the individual karma, what we think of ourselves as the individual. And we mentioned the 8 consciousnesses, if you remember, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, discriminated consciousness, and storehouse consciousness. That's how the individual is built up. And then we talked about society, how society is built up everywhere. And we defined, 4 very, very big groups. And I redraw that into a circle because none is above the other. It's a very important point. So when we talk about the interconnection of 4 distinct groups of society and the ones that are above and below, we can really see that we have a group identity in terms of where we belong, whether we think we belong to the intellectuals or the brain workers with the internal power of the mind, whether we belong to the outside power, the external power, the warriors, the policemen, the soldiers, or whether we belong to the financial power, which is the traders, the businessmen, or the action power, which is the workers, the producers, whether it's agriculture or factory. Or we examine that there are groups below, those who are against this social structure in one way or another, and they have to go to jail. So they are bound by the law. And those who want to supersede this, and they go to a temple or a monastery because they do not want any of this at first, and then later they would like to come back and help this to develop a better quality. So in a summary, this was what we talked about in the first 2 lectures. And now comes the question in the third, what are we really? If you think of yourself as an individual, you have memories, distinctions, like and dislike mind. You have a lot of thinking, that's why we are sitting here. And the 6, senses. As I mentioned, there is something which perceives all these 8 consciousnesses. We can say, I remember. We can say, I like, I don't like. We can say, I think, I see, I feel, taste, smell, touch, etc. But what is this I? And then comes a lot of answers. I am Korean, American, Czech, Hungarian, Italian. So that's where nationality comes. And if you remember the beginning of our second talk, there's a very big group karma with your nationality. And if you identify that, you say, I am Korean. No, your group karma is Korean. Okay? Because you think like Korean, you feel like Korean, you taste, smell, touch, things that Koreans usually do. So that's why you were born here into the Korean group. Same is true of any nationality. So if you take up the habits of a certain group and you identify with it, you are born into that group. Okay? That's your group karma. It's also stored in your storehouse consciousness. But you are not that. It's just your group karma, okay? And that's why it's so important at the beginning of the monastic path, leaving home. In Korean, chulga. When you do chulga, you not only cut your hair, you cut your attachments, not only to your individual karma, but also to any kind of group karma that you have. That's why it's so beneficial if you can also leave your home culture. I mean, you don't usually go to a monastery just about 40 kilometers next to your home. It can happen, but the best is if you go to a different culture. These days on this earth, in this global village, is highly possible. So you have to basically rebuild yourself into a spiritual tradition or a monastic tradition. So in dependence of our group karma and individual karma, we may give various answers. And the biggest answer givers are usually religions, because they deal with the existence of human beings on earth. And if you look at other branches like science, psychology, etc., they also give a lot of answers, but the biggest difference, the largest number of ideas how human beings exist on this earth is among religions. Now, I mentioned previously that religious thought belongs actually to a very important but limited number of people. They are called priests or Brahmins, sometimes monks, nuns, etc. It's thought. It's a kind of identity, okay? They tell you who you are. They tell you what to believe. So in Christianity, you are taught to be the creation of God. In some advanced form of Western thinking, you are equal to your Creator, except that you have a bodily existence. In other forms, there is the thought that everything has a little bit of God in it. Okay? So many, many ways of thinking how the Creator and the created are related to each other. In Hinduism, wow. I mean, we have the supreme, the highest, God. And then from there are other gods, and then many other realms, and then the humans, and below humans. A whole hierarchy. In Judaism, there are these thick books. In Islam also. Which one is correct? Which one is correct? So we could have religion number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, science version A, B, C, D, E, psychology also. Which one is correct? We are bombarded with senses of identity from left and right, from our families, from society, from our teachers, friends, enemies. We are always taught, directly or indirectly, who or what we are. And religious thought also gives you various definitions. Zen shares none of this. Zero. It does not give you a definition. It does not give you a prepared idea or a set of beliefs. Instead, it makes this question your practice. So, most of you read, the most important element in the Zen practice that the sixth patriarch and other great patriarchs taught is the Huadu. Literally, it means word or thought and head. Head is the first, where the thought comes from. So all kinds of thinking which I listed before comes from the mind which has a question. What are we, or what am I? Even better, when you do not have a personal pronoun, but you ask, what is this? What is this mind? What is this we call substance? Okay? In a complete format, it's no thinking, it's no form, then what is it? So if it's not a thought, and if it's not a form, if it's not a name, and not a kind of an object, what is it? Now, you may think that if you start repeating this like a tape recorder, you go nuts. It's true. If you keep repeating it like a tape recorder, and you're attached to the words, the phrase of the Huadu, you don't get anywhere. It's a very important point. What's really important is experiencing the question, the mind which asks the question, and it has basically two steps. One, you do repeat the question with every in-breath. As you breathe in and out, as you meditate, you repeat the question, what am I? And as you breathe out, you may say what you want to say, but observe the question. It's much better. Your mind will just play the movie at the out-breath, what you think you are. But don't think what you are. You should know who you are. It's a different story. Okay? So when you ask this question, it's like taking a kind of long time no play movie out of the box and it starts playing. All your senses of identity, all your ideas, everything starts to play. And if you don't attach to it, if you just let it roll, if you let it just happen, and you focus on the question, you will actually attain your true self, which is no name, no form, no group identity, no individual identity, but something which I cannot put into words. So I say, we don't know. So if it's not a thought, if it's not a form, then it's impossible to know. And it's correct. Okay? So it's not a lack of knowledge. It's something which is before knowledge, before dualistic thinking, before good and bad, high and low, group karma or individual karma. It's precisely before appearance, before thought. Okay? This is something which we can only understand in a very limited way. Even the best Dharma talks, the best books which you can read in the library cannot make you experience it. So you can read 1,000 descriptions how to climb up to the top of the world, Chomolungma, or Mount Everest, which is somewhere 8,848 meters above sea level. But if you don't climb up there, you are not on top of the world. So the best is to sit with this question, to stay with this question, and then you experience the answer, what we are really. Not what we think we are, or what we are made to think that we are. Okay? It's not some kind of individual idea or a group idea. It's something beyond that. And why is it so important to experience our true self, our true identity, which is no identity? Because, like I said in the first talk, one day the car has to go to the junkyard and the driver has to go. If you are attached to the car and cannot undo your seatbelt and cannot open the door and let go of the steering wheel, you're stuck in the car. And you go to the junkyard with the car. Okay? In other words, then people cannot die correctly and cannot be reborn correctly. Then the quality of existence on this earth goes down. And we cannot, or we can attain enlightenment with a lot more difficulties. Okay? And if we attain our substance, then we can let go of all our ignorance and anger and desire. This is the benefit before we die. Okay? If you identify with your dualistic thinking, that's the birthplace of ignorance. Okay? Many myths talk about it. Even when you hear about a garden with a tree which had a specific fruit, an apple, and two human beings walking in there not knowing what they are or what the world is. And suddenly, there's an animal, a snake, talking something. And then these people start to eat the fruit, which is from the tree of knowing good and bad. And then they lose the heavenly state, or they lose this oneness with nature. In fact, they then lose their true selves. Instead, they start to identify with their thinking and not only have pain when they give birth, but also they have pain when they die. It's a very important myth, but it's also important to understand it correctly. Okay? So when we stay with the question actually absorbs all our thinking. Those questions which we usually direct towards the outside, they return to the mind, which is before thinking. This is a very important point, because you cannot find the answer somewhere out there, and you cannot find the answer somewhere inside your thinking or your feelings or your speech. So where do we return, and why do the Taoists and the Zen practitioners use the Tanzhong, the Tantien? Because that's the energy point in the body which does not have differentiated energy. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have speech. It doesn't have thinking. It doesn't have sensory perceptions. That's your don't know point. Okay? So when the body has the Mahamudra, the great cosmic gesture, and the speech is silent, and the mind doesn't move, then you attain this question. We not only say, don't know, we actually attain the point which is before thinking. And the attainment is different from explanation. When you hear this sound, your mind is before thinking. And your mind and this world become one. So now we understand, based on the two plus the current talks, that how important it is to immerse ourselves in this deep question, what am I, or what are we, in all, what is this? What is our substance? If we don't do this, we can have many senses of identity, but every one of them will be limited. Every one of them is relative. Every one of them is subject to causes and conditions, birth and death, coming and going. Yet, human beings have something which doesn't come and doesn't go. It's never born and it doesn't die. Now, we can call it in many ways. But like I said before, it's not a thought, it's not a form, it's not something which human speech can express. But we can experience it, we can attain it. And that's why only practice helps. Not because some Zen teacher says it, because that's the way it operates, okay? All right, so just to make this question very clear in terms of practice, this is not relegated to sitting only. In fact, the teaching says sitting, standing, walking, lying down, silent, talking, dreaming, and in a wakeful state. Constantly, without interruption, keep the question, what is this? Now, if you really do that, 100%, then the following happens. First, you attain our substance. It's really interesting how questions work. Questions break down the barriers imposed by thinking. In fact, they totally consume, the question totally consumes the firewall of your ego. This is what kind of sets the boundary between you and the universe. So when you attain substance, you and this world really become one, because you do not have a separation. You do not have a sense of separation any longer. And that's a very interesting point. Most people suffer because of this sense of separation, and they want happiness, some kind of happiness which can for some time, make them forget this sense of separation. And they are clinging, and most humans are clinging to some sensory perception, sensory data, which could be the source of this happiness. It can be food, it can be sleep, it can be a lot of money or fame or sex, whatever. But these things don't last. They change. And if you attach to them, then you're attached to the source of happiness, which stops being the source of happiness because it's gone. Okay? I tell you a little story. I was in Seattle, Washington, and I was sitting in an office. I got my driver's license there. And there was an American woman coming in, and she was crying. And she didn't even have a driving test or didn't even see any official. I mean, the theoretical examination is really simple there. And I asked her that, lady, can I help you? You seem to be in distress. And she says, I lost my purse. Now, Americans usually don't carry around too much cash. They usually use plastic, right? Safe, clear. It's a phone call and it's canceled, you know. But she was totally and absolutely in distress, depressed, almost disintegrated emotionally. And I tried to kind of soothe her a little bit. Lady, you're okay. You're fine. It's just money, you know. And then she didn't seem to care. Her emotional state was so strong. And then I said, let me ask you a question. You and your purse, are they the same or are they different? Then she was a little surprised because she probably never heard this before, even if she went to a psychologist or some other places where they treat her. I said, well, different. And then I said, look, that is correct. Of course, in a Zen interview, it wouldn't be correct. You know that. But at that time, I used her differentiating thinking to try to help her. I said, your purse is lost, but you are not lost. She says, wow. And then her state of mind and her state of emotion started to change. Just a little bit, okay? But again, the clouds of this really strong identity, which was material wealth, those clouds, at least for a moment, cracked. And of course, they closed back up again, but they will never be the same as before. Like with this question or with this attainment, you can have very heavy karma. We all have. Otherwise, we would not have been born on the face of this earth. So we all have some karma. But if you attain just one moment of clarity, one moment of don't know, your karma will never hold you as tight as before. That's why it's worth it. And if you keep practicing, you can burn this karma, which brings you freedom, liberation. It's not the freedom that the strikers are striking about. It's not the freedom that the books and the clever ones talk about. It's your liberation, which means all beings' liberation, the two together. Because when you attain freedom from suffering, that means you do not impose suffering on this earth anymore. Okay? This is very, very important. And this question opens up your consciousness. You do not deal with definitions anymore. You do not deal with categories anymore. You do not deal with individual or group identity anymore. You just keep this question, which makes your mind simple and clear. Clear like space, which is clear like a mirror. So the question 100%, 360 degrees, opens up your consciousness and you see clearly, hear clearly, taste, smell, touch, and think clearly. So clear like space, that's our substance. And the first instance of its operation, of its function, is reflection. And that's something we call truth. Sky is blue, tree is green, dogs are barking, birds are singing. There's a very big bus going right in front of this building right now. You can hear it. Okay? Simple, clear, moment to moment, and very meticulous. That's truth. And then next, this truth is not just bound to the physical senses. You also reflect people's emotions, and if your mind is really clear, you also reflect people's thinking. And that's unusual, but it's possible. So somebody said, you are sad. You totally, through this substance, you totally reflect the other person's emotions. You don't identify with it, but you 100% reflect it, like the mirror reflects the little Pooh Bear, which is before it, but it doesn't become the Pooh Bear. But it 100% reflects it, exactly as it is. So somebody said, you are sad. But the source of your sadness is the other person's sadness. And her sadness comes from her karma, from her cause and effect relationship. It's very important, okay? So after truth, what comes? So if somebody is sad and you are sad, what's next? You want to stay like that? And you want her or him to stay like that? Probably not. And then if somebody is sad, you make them happy. Somebody is hungry, you feel that hunger and you give them food. Somebody is thirsty and you also feel this parched, dry mouth and you give them drink. We call that function. So, in brackets I put here don't know for substance, for lack of a better word. In fact, it's the best word you can use for it. Everything else is a bigger lie. This is also a lie, okay? Because your true self is not D-O-N-T-K-N-O-W, okay? Or when you say don't know, you already said something. It's a thought, but without content. It's a zero-value thought, okay? But it's still better than any other lie, which is presuming that this is something or somebody or things or beings, okay? And the truth is like this. It's like this. Not good or bad, high, etc. This is white. And then the function, we call that just like this. It's good that you can look at Korean and Chinese texts if you want to understand more, because this is a direct translation of Chinese terms which I don't know. I was not educated in that. Okay? Just like this means when somebody's sad, make them happy. It's called object just like this. And when you 100% become one and do it, when you play basketball, 100% play basketball. When you eat, just 100% eat. Subject just like this. You become one. Okay? Just like this. And to make this part of the system, don't know in this way is called become one like this. And the like this in Sanskrit is tathata or suchness. Okay? Still, don't know is a little better. So to make it a little more understandable with our thinking mind, the suchness of becoming one, the suchness of only seeing, only hearing, only like this, the suchness of only like this, the suchness of just doing it, whether you connect or you become one. Okay? So this is the way it happens. This is the way it operates. That's why it's not something abstract, something remote, but very deep, very compassionate, and very practical. So what do we have to do to attain all this? Something very simple. Just like you clean your body every day in the bathroom, try to clear your mind every day on the spot where you practice. Whether it's a bus, or the chiachol, subway, or the airplane, your workplace, your home, it doesn't matter. Many great practitioners never sat in the Dharma room. Okay? They didn't, start there. Maybe after a while they got there. But throughout their work, the simple, clear work which they did for other people. I've seen a great bodhisattva and she did not know that she was a bodhisattva, and she was taking care of disabled children. And her face was radiating. Full compassion, full engagement, full action. You can get that in any kind of job, any kind of situation. So this, what we have now in our minds and in bits on the chalkboard, is not relegated to monks and nuns. It's not their property. Every single one of us has this Buddha nature, has the potential to attain all this. We only have to work for it. Of course, we have the potential inside, but like I said, the firewall of our thinking, that has to go. Otherwise, you remain in the illusion of separation. And once it's gone, it will never come back, not in the same way as before. So keep the question. Don't believe the answers. Don't believe systems. If it helps your intellect, use it. It's only food, okay? It's food for your thought. But what's really, really, truly important, never let your question die. So keep it all the time, everywhere. Whether you have a body or not. Whether you're human or not. Whether you're Asian, African, Antarctican, European, American, any kind of karma, keep the question. What am I? What is this? And then your mind opens. Then truth and function spontaneously appear always before you, moment to moment. So I would like to open the floor for questions. And if you have any questions, I'll be very happy to try and answer them.
The heartening story with the Sunim while you were practicing, before you said Chong An practice, and I just want to hear about those stories from you.
Oh, that's great. So first, just in general about Chong An practice, where does that fit? How does that come to the picture? Chong An practice is the test of your mind. Put yourself into some kind of situation. In modern world, when pilots get their training, they go into a simulator. If they crash in a simulator, nothing happens. Maybe they get a bad mark or some kind of points, who knows. But if we crash in real life, sometimes we do not have a chance to correct that mistake in this incarnation. So testing is very important. So substance, truth, function, together, how do we practice that? The clear substance, clear truth, and clear function, and that's called moment. So if I want to unite the three things and make it clear for you how to practice moment, keep the moment clear, unobstructed by thinking, emotions, etc. All right? So the test of the moment is the Chong An. If you freeze up, boom, you're lost. If you start thinking, you're lost. If you give the wrong answer, you're lost. So, Son Mu Tap, Dharma combat, okay? Dharma combat means we test each other's awakening. Sometimes a student can hit the teacher, and that's wonderful. Then the teacher is very happy. Student's growing, okay? So, this moment is deeply interconnected with Chong An practice, because Chong An practice suddenly presents you with a situation. a situation where something is missing. Something feels incomplete. Okay? And if you're very, very clear, then with the reflection of truth or function, you find the other part and you put right next to it. It becomes complete. Okay? Some kongans are interesting because they seem to have something extra, sticking out. Then you find that extra, take it away. Okay? That's why in the West, many artists who have a sense of completion through creativity, they love kongans. Scientists or brain workers, they don't like them so much. The reason being is it irritates their thinking because they want to solve everything by dualistic thinking. But there's this simple kongan. Zen Master Unmun, when he went to the toilet, as he was coming out, he was confronted by a student. And as he was, rearranging himself, the student asked him, Zen Master, what is Buddha? Then he said, dry shit on the stick. And the question is, what is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of dry shit on the stick? Now, if you're a scientist and you kind of want to work it out rationally, it's not going to work. If you're a Buddhist and you want to know everything about sutras and history, etc., you are lost for many years, still you don't find the answer. But if you keep your mind clear like space, clear like a mirror, you can reflect very clearly what the answer is. Okay? So if you pass the test, you get the next test. Some kongans are really about compassion. Like the one which really irritates Westerners is the Namchon kills a cat kongan because they don't know how to save the cat. So the full story is like this. Zen Master Namchon was a wonderful and great Zen master. And he had a lot of students, hundreds of monks. So half of them sat and lived in the Western Hall and the other half in the Eastern Hall. And they were arguing about a cat. One said, the cat is ours. No, the cat is ours. Cat is ours. No, the cat is ours. One moment, Namchon just held up the cat and he took out his precepts knife. He says, all of you, give me one word and I save this cat. If not, I kill it. So people froze. Those monks, they couldn't say anything. So Namchon killed the cat. Now when Westerners hear this, especially when we talk about Namchon in terms of precepts, not taking any life, how the precepts are open and how they're closed, Westerners and some Koreans, they are outraged. Totally and absolutely. How dares the Zen master? How would he dare to kill a cat? He's not supposed to. That's not the problem. The problem is you. The problem is us. We cannot save the cat. We cannot go beyond our possessive mind, our possessive instincts. So how do you really save the cat? Do you have enough clarity, courage, and compassion? Because this is really about compassion. Okay? So kongans are the ultimate tests of your substance, truth, and function, which is this moment. And one really important thing, when students pass the kongans, then they may feel that, wow, I got it, my true self functions so well. And observations show, let me be scientific a little bit, observations show that if you have an idiot who solves all the kongans, then the result is an idiot with kongan solutions. Okay? Put anything instead of the idiot and you get the other results. What does this really mean? It really means that kongans have to integrate into our lives, into our consciousness. Some kongans, if you get smart, you can solve just by thinking, some of them. But the most important ones, they really take some intuition. Even that is not enough. So what needs to happen is that without thinking, you absorb the Kongan as you solved it and as it was verified by the teacher, and then you do it outside. Of course, not attaching to the Kongan's form or the Kongan's words, and you're looking for opportunities to prove how enlightened you are. That's not the point. The point is, it should really be mature and ripe inside of you. Then it transforms your karma. And this kind of transformation or integration takes much, much longer time. So getting the Kongan solution is a very, very little portion of our practice. It's very important, is the center point, I should say, how we make our substance reflective and functional, clearly, how we not lose our true self, moment to moment. But we should integrate Kongans into our lives. We should do them in this very flexible sense of the word. Because if we don't, we remain the same ignorant people, just with Kongan solutions on the shoulder. And that's useless. Okay? More questions? You don't have to agree with me. Go ahead. If you want to challenge what I say, please do so. Go ahead.
Master say that if we are thinking, our pure mind appears at the same time. Is that true?
Let me ask you, your thinking and your true self, are they the same or are they different?
Pardon me?
Your thinking mind and your true self, are they the same or are they different? Don't know? Very good. Stuck. Mind is stuck. That's correct, you know. When you cannot answer with your thinking, then poof, your mind gets stuck. That's the job of these questions. So keep this stuck mind. Okay? Then this moment becomes very clear. Remember, and this is just some help to your rational thinking mind, that form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Remember that. What we said in the first lecture, that form, the dualistic world is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Your thinking mind comes from no mind. And from no mind comes thinking. That's what the Heart Sutra teaches. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. So if you say the same, mistake. If you say they're different, also mistake. When you think, just think. That makes you a good thinker. If you're a good thinker, you can earn a lot of money. You can also help other people. If you're a good scientist, a good teacher, etc. They are good thinkers. They have to be. Their thinking must be clear. But if you're attached to any of these, then the quality of your mind goes down. Then you cannot think clearly. If you're attached to thinking, you cannot think clearly. Okay? So, when you do something, just do it. Just think. Just act. Just eat. Just sleep. Then, no problem. But if you start thinking, then it poisons everything. That's why simple, clear mind and clear direction, that helps. Thinking how we define ourselves as an I, as an ego, that doesn't help. Moment to moment, what are you doing right now? And that's what you are. That's what we are. Okay? There's nothing outside this moment that we can have. So do not form any identity. It's illusory. Okay? More questions?